morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast. My name is Metal Mike. Today, we are going to talk about preseason week one. We're going to get into the news coming out of this past week, and we are also going to spotlight the NFC South, our final division to spotlight in the NFC. And to do it with me, as always, the Candy Man himself, the pick master, Mr. Johnny H. John, how are you doing on this football Sunday?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I got a good night. I got a great night's sleep. Like, man, I fell asleep, I think, at like 12:30 last night. Woke up at 10. I got like 10 hours of sleep. I am
got like
fresh.
6 hours. So I haven't slept well this weekend.
Well, John, the training camp has started. We know that. Preseason has kicked off. We know that. And what a week one of preseason it's been. Some players that a lot of people didn't expect to show out in week one, they showed out. Statistics showed it. Teams that expected to have good preseason games with their rosters, even with backups, didn't. And we also have John, we have a record that's unofficial that happened in the game yesterday between the Steelers and the Jaguars. I don't know if you've seen this, but check this out.
Drill the ball.
Holy smokes. They got a shot.
He just kicked a 70-yard field goal. Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
I've never seen that. The NFL record. That would be an NFL record.
In the first half. Holy smokes.
That's unbelievable.
So if the
preseason record.
If the season was official, John, a record would be broken, 70-yard field goal.
That's how you cement your presence in the preseason and give your fan base nothing to worry about. That's all right. Our kicker can make it from 70 yards. We've seen it in the first preseason game. I heard about it. I didn't actually see it until now.
Just imagine if this was an official regular season game and the Jaguars were down by 3 with 3 seconds left and they needed a field goal to go into overtime, they can rely on this kicker. Like,
Kid's got a Jake Bates leg, man. He can kill it.
That is a roster-making kick. Bottom line, if this kid is not on this roster, the Jaguars have a problem. They do. They have a problem with roster making. I can't actually remember who the Jags kicker was last year. Yeah, according to ESPN's depth chart for the Jaguars, Cam Little, he's the only kicker on the roster. Yeah. So he didn't have anything to worry about except being a rookie, but he really doesn't have anything to worry about now. But we've seen a few teams go through kickers like it was nothing last year. I mean, a kicker would come in, have a bad week, they were gone and they were replaced. But kickers are the most replaced position in the league, obviously, because it's the kicker position. So you really got to cement yourself and do real good to stay on a team. I mean, it's very few and far that we see teams keep the same kicker. I mean, the Eagles have Jake Elliott for the past, how many years? Jake Moody on the 49ers has been a 49er for 3 years now?
He needs to go. He's too inconsistent. He's still on his rookie contract, though. I think that's the only reason why he's a 49er.
I'm just saying, you look at it, and there's very few kickers out there that are able to stay on a team consistently through the years. Teams are going through kickers like nothing. So for this kid to do this and to show, like, hey, I'm reliable, I can kick a 70-yarder if you need me to and put a game into overtime, or at least get us closer to where we need to be if it's a close-scoring game. I mean, this, like I said, some of these players coming out of week one of preseason, the proving ground has been laid. It has been, and we're going to get into that. But first, John, we need to get into the news of the week before we get into some of the preseason games. Couple things coming out of the week. As we know, Keenan Allen, he signed with the Chargers 1 year, $8.5 million. We talked about Keenan Allen in extensive conversations throughout the past couple weeks going into the preseason, coming out of free agency. There were a couple teams that were interested in him. There was about 6 teams that were favored to pick him. Chargers were on the list. Are you surprised he went back to Los Angeles after only going to Chicago for a year?
No, I expected him to go back to being a Charger. He's beloved over there. He's a Charger legend.
Yeah.
So let him end his career there. He's just got to learn the new playbook. That's all. From Harbaugh.
I mean, I think him and Harbaugh will mesh very well together.
And it gives Herbert somebody who he knows he has timing with. He knows him very well. I mean, it gives him another weapon he's comfortable with.
It does. It does.
Nothing but positive from this.
And he was the top free agent wide receiver on the list. I mean, you look at the other wide receivers on the free agent list. There's a couple good ones that can be possible game changers. But Keenan Allen was the top guy. He was the top guy on that free agent list. So I mean, for him to settle in Los Angeles, I mean, he's been in the league for a long time. I think he's at the point where if he decides he wants to play next year, he'll sign another 1 year, $8 million contract. He's on that point where he'll continue to sign new contracts every year. It's not going to be, signing big deals anymore. He's at that point. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah. With his age and everything, no team's going to give him a big contract. 2 years at the most.
Yeah. So, Kyron Williams, the running back from the Rams, he signed a 3-year, $33 million extension. So he's going to be a Ram for the next. Well, he's expected to be a Ram for the next 3 years. You got to kind of use that word expected because contracts, in a small sense, don't matter no more, John. You can sign a 4-year deal and next year be traded. Teams are pulling that nowadays. So Kyron Williams expected to be a Ram for the next 3 years. He's going to get $33 million in his extension. So, I mean, Kyron Williams, I'll say this, he's been one of my favorite running backs since being in the league. I mean, and to do so, I mean, the kid is good. So do you have anything on Kyron Williams extending his contract with the Rams?
Move by the Rams. I mean, I've never really been a fan of him. He's like, to me. But he's also a Ram, so.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rival team.
I don't think much of the Rams.
Yeah.
So.
Matthew Stafford from the Rams, quarterback, he has an aggravated disc in his back. He's hoping to be ready for week 1. It's unsure if he's going to be ready for week 1. So Matthew Stafford dealing with some nagging back pains. Definitely know about that personally. Do you think Matthew Stafford will be ready for week 1?
I don't know at this point. I mean, breaking news, Matthew Stafford's hurt again. That's been the story of his Rams after he led them to the Super Bowl.
It has.
Injury after injury after injury. I think it's time to invest in a new quarterback or at least get a young one ready to go. Otherwise, you got Jimmy G in there. So I hope for the Rams' sake, trying to be impartial here, he's ready. But as a 49er fan, I want to see Jimmy G in there.
I mean, you're right on that. Matthew Stafford, after leading them to the Super Bowl the year he got traded to Los Angeles, it's just been injury after injury. He's been dealing with nagging stuff ever since. Exactly. And I mean, from a personal standpoint, if he were to look for the advice of do I stay away from back surgery? Do I go do it? It all depends, number one, on how bad it is. If it's bad to the point where it's going to be like life-changing, it's going to have you bedridden, anything like that, then go for it. But if you're able to go and get some stuff done, like an epidural done or something like that, go get that done. It will help you move again, and I mean, you just got to make yourself comfortable first personally and then work on yourself getting on the field. Do I think Matthew Stafford will be on the field in week 1? I do. I think he'll push himself to do it. I think they'll push to clear him. But do I think it's a good move? It all depends on how aggravated this injury is, on how bad it is, because if he goes in there and he takes one good hit, he could be done for the season. It's your back. It's your second most important part on your body next to your neck. So it's a tough thing to really think about. It is. James Cook, running back from the Bills, he's holding in. Now, he's been seen in uniform on the field with the players and everything like that. But he's still holding in. He wants a big contract. Has he been practicing? He's been taking reps. He's been doing things here and there during like the mini camps and everything. But now that we're in training camp, he's just been standing on the sideline. Hasn't been doing much of anything. Your thoughts on James Cook's holding in and looking for that new contract?
I don't get these guys. They signed they signed their contracts. I'm sure they've seen what they're making every year of their contract. I'm sure their agent is going with it. It was good enough to sign when it was presented to you. Just play it out. Play it out. You're already making money. Play it out. Like, I don't understand the greed of these players. Like, I feel like they don't realize how good they have it.
If you go back to 2 years ago, there were two key wide receivers that were looking for new contracts coming out of their rookie contracts, and that was Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? And Justin Jefferson ended up getting injured on that contract year. And one of his biggest worries was getting a new contract. He didn't know if he was going to be in Minnesota the next year or how big his contract was going to be if they extended him, anything like that. He ended up getting the big contract. He became the highest, at that time, the highest paid wide receiver in the league.
You're not going to pay Justin Jefferson. He tore it up the years that he played. He had nothing to worry about.
But just like, just like a person that like we work 9 to 5, 9 to 5 is what we're considered, right? We worry about things in life, right? We deal with mental anxieties and stuff like that. That's what he's worried about because this is his job. This is what he does. This is what he worked all his life to do. So was it bothering him? Yes, because he got injured. He worried it was going to affect him and everything that, with his living. It's understandable because, again, and we've had this conversation extensively.
His living. He's already made more money than we'll ever see on his rookie contract. He's got nothing to worry about.
But here's the thing, John. There's been many conversations and many comments of, oh, these guys go out and make so much money and millions of dollars, but people don't think about the sacrifice that they make. Like, they don't do certain things so they continue playing football and playing baseball and playing hockey and playing basketball. It's the commitment that they put in their life to get to where they want to be. You know what I mean? So it's just like us. We have certain commitments that where we want to be in certain spots in our life, and we commit to it just like they do. It was bothering him. He ends up getting the contract anyways. It would have been a bad move on Minnesota's part not to re-sign him. It would have been. So, but I'm with you. I mean, James Cook, you're still on your contract. Like, play through this year. Earn your contract. Earn the contract. The Bills are obviously at that point where they're thinking, okay, we want to see you earn this. Because there's other players on this roster that could be just as good as you, and we haven't seen it yet. So we'll have to see if James... I mean, could there be a possibility he gets it before the season kicks off? Yeah, it could be. It happens. We've seen contracts get signed the day of kickoff. A couple years ago, Dak Prescott got his contract the day the season kicked off. So who knows? Jordan Addison, wide receiver of the Vikings, he's suspended for 3 games for the wellness policy. So Jordan Addison's going to be gone for 3 games for the Vikings. Do you think that's a huge hit on the Vikings for the first 3 games?
Definitely. That's number 2. He's the number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So that's I don't know if it's a huge hit because you still have Hawkinson and you still have Justin Jefferson to throw the ball to, but you're taking a target away from a quarterback who's never played in an NFL regular season game. So that's definitely a hit. Yeah,
I agree. Maurice Norris, defensive back of the Lions. He was taken off the field Friday night versus the Falcons. He suffered a really bad neck injury. He is okay. He's moving. He's talking. Everything's good. It was just a big scare. With that big scare, there was 12 minutes left in the game, and the New York decided to suspend the game. They decided, hey, let's stop this thing. We have a guy being taken off the field in an ambulance. There's no reason to continue this thing. Do you think this was a good move on the NFL and to make this decision, or do you think that they should have maybe continued the preseason game?
I don't know. I feel like injuries happen in the NFL all the time. I mean, they're not going to stop it for an injury like that in the regular season. So I feel like they should have just played it. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but
No,
I mean,
everybody.
anytime somebody steps on the football field, there's a chance they can get hurt. It doesn't matter if it's the preseason or the regular season. So,
And John, I wouldn't call that an unpopular opinion, because I guarantee you're not the only one that feels this way. You're not the only one that has this thought. You're not the only one to think that. You know, I'll say this. I think it was a smart move on New York because it is a preseason game. You want to try and eliminate having big injuries happen in the preseason, because you want teams to be healthy going into the regular season. You do. You want teams to have every player that, you know, for example, if he's a starter, the Lions just lost a starter for possibly the first 3 weeks of the season, because depending on still how bad the injury is, you know, if he's up and walking and talking and all that stuff, but it's still his neck. He doesn't need his neck to walk. He doesn't need his neck to talk. He doesn't need his neck to move his arms, but he does need his neck for stability and to be healthy, and so that he can go out and do the job that he needs to do. So
my question is, if he's a starter, why is he in that late of the game? In a preseason game. That's my question to the Lions.
It was just a general observation, John. That's all.
I know.
And the thing is you know, the other thing with that being said is, I think the NFL worries about that because they want to make sure that the superstars are on the field for when they're on television. You know, they have other things to worry about and concern about when it comes to that. For example, you know, years ago when NBC dropped the NFL and the NFC went to Fox and the NFC went to CBS, you know, they looked at it as, okay, we're going to put certain games on TV. Why? Because these play. You always see it in the advertisement, you know, the big matchups, you know, back in the day, like Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, you know, the big matchups. And that's another thing that they look at protecting for their television. If you're going to go in and have like a week 18 game with all the backups in it, ratings go down most of week 18 games because of that. So, you know, it's almost like another preseason game late in the year. That's what it is.
That's why they made it division matchup. So it is. Yeah. If you have two teams competing for something like the division, it still does matter. It's just not every single game's going to matter.
Yeah, and we've seen it a few years ago to where, you know, the Rams and the Seahawks were battling for the NFC West. You know, came down to that last week. You know, 49ers and Seahawks were in that position too a couple of years ago. You know, so there is a couple games in the last week of the season that it does matter. But I think this was a decent move by New York to kind of say, hey, you know what, like let's call this thing. We're in the fourth quarter. There is a team that is leading. We could just deem them the winner. It's not going to count anyways. Don't matter. You know, and by that time, all the coaches see what they need to see anyways. The fourth quarter of a preseason game is basically go around, fucking finish this game. The first 3 quarters are what really matters when it comes to scouting for who's going to make the team and who's not. So, Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle of the Chargers, after signing his 10-day extension, which ended up being the biggest contract in league history for an offensive lineman, ends up suffering a season-ending torn pectoral tendon.
No. That's bad. That's bad luck.
That's rough.
Yeah,
that is rough.
That's very rough, man.
It is. When I heard this news the other day, I was like, man, like what shit?
We got paid.
I mean, yeah, and it was a big contract too. Very big contract. We talked about that contract. And it's like you think of it like, all right, the Chargers are taking care of business. They're getting the guys to protect Justin Herbert, and now they got to go out and find somebody to fill that spot because he's gone for the year. So, I mean, is there a chance? There was word that there is a chance that if the Chargers make the playoffs, that he could be back by playoff time, but it's very unlikely. So, last bit of news, John. 3 teams right now are in a quarterback battle situation. The Saints with Tyler Shuck, The Colts with Daniel Jones, and the Browns with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is expected to start week 1.
I don't
Daniel
think that's
Jones
a competition for starter. I think it's more the backups. They're trying to figure out the rest.
for the Browns.
Yeah.
Well, Dylan Gabriel, he is out right now with an injury, so that gives Shedeur Sanders somewhat of the front run.
Pickett, too. That's why Shedeur even got the start.
Well, Kenny Pickett's injured.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's out, too.
So Shedeur Sanders is pretty much the front runner to get that second spot. But it's still a quarterback battle because, John, me and you had the conversation about Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders the other day. And I had put out there to you that I said I think Joe Flacco should be the starter because he is the veteran. He has the experience. Now, if he's 2-3 going into week 6, then keep him in. You're still close to 5. But if he's 1-4 and Shedeur's doing that good, then I would probably think about it to try and keep yourself in that playoff hunt. Do I think the Browns are going to be a playoff team? No, I don't. But if they make it, I think they're a wild card round and done. I don't think they get further than the wild card round. But as far as the Colts, Daniel Jones is the most favored quarterback right now in the Colts camp. Why? Because Anthony Richardson, he's not living up to that potential, which is rough for this kid. Ever since he took himself out of that game, it's been downhill for him. And Tyler Shook right now, he's leading Saints camp, which is not a surprise.
Spencer Rattler looked absolutely terrible last year. I would hope Shook leading Saints camp. That's not a surprise to me.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like Tyler Shook is going to be the starter for the Saints. They didn't name it yet, obviously. I think these 3 teams in particular with quarterback battles happening, whether it's for QB1 or QB2, I think we get the announcement more so closer to the start of the season. But these are the teams that have quarterback battles going on right now. And the Saints, I believe they play today against the Chargers at 4:00. Yeah, they do. They play the Chargers at 4:00 today. So I guess we will see, number 1, who takes the field. And number 2, who does better as far as statistics. So
personally think in Cleveland that Flacco's done. Flacco's done. He hasn't had a over 2,000 yard season since 2018. I mean, I think he's done. He's been game managing for about 7 years now. I put the young kid in, put Sanders in. Let's see what the hype is. So, I mean, he did very, very well. I watched the game against the Panthers, and he impressed the heck out of me. Like, I was a skeptic of him because I needed to see it. And he's lived up to the hype so far.
Well, John, that's it for the news. Let's get into the preseason week 1. Let's talk about some games.
Okay.
I got some of the game scores scrolling along the bottom there for everybody to check out. In other scores, the Steelers defeated the Jaguars 31-25. Rams defeated the Cowboys 31-21. Buccaneers defeated the Titans 29-7. The Cardinals defeated the Chiefs 20-17. Jets defeated the Packers 30-10, and the Broncos defeated the 49ers 30-9. Those are some of the other scores coming out of preseason week 1, as the other scores are scrolling along the bottom. So, John, I'll say this. Here's some of the statistics that, number 1, there's a lot of players that we have spotlighted for week 1 that we were basically looking at on our own. And I'll say this, 3 players that I was looking at, and 2 players that I was looking at, one that was brought to my attention that I did not know about until after the game ended. Skylar Thompson from the Steelers, 20 out of 28, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Okay, that's the one that was brought to my attention. The other 2, Jackson Dart, he went 12 of 19, 154 yards and a touchdown. And Shedeur Sanders, who went 14 of 23, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. 3 players who at the quarterback position who showed, in week 1 of preseason that they mean business this year. It's rookies that really have their eye on the ball. So, John, if you have any other players that have impressed you, number 1, but number 2, your thoughts on Dart, Sanders, and Thompson.
Well, We all know that's Flacco's team. I think Thompson he made a real good case that he should be the backup over Mason Rudolph. So I didn't expect that out of him. I think Steelers fans didn't expect them out of him.
It's Rodgers'. Are you talking
So
about the Steelers?
yeah.
Okay, it's Rodgers' team. You said Flacco.
Oh, I did. Sorry,
Yeah,
I had
it's all good.
Flacco on my screen. That's why I read it.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm
I just wanted
sorry.
to make sure you. I just wanted to know what team you were talking about. Sorry.
Definitely Rodgers' team. But I mean, I could go over a list of a couple players who impressed. Tanner McKee, I really like this kid, second-year player.
Yeah, he had a
Philly's
great game
backup.
against the Bengals. Yeah.
Honestly, I think he could give. It's not going to happen, but I think he could give Hurts a run for a starter. I think he's a better passer than Jalen Hurts is, hands down. I mean, Eagle fans might disagree with that, but I've been really impressed with McKee his whole career so far with Philly. But other rookies, like, we all know about the quarterbacks, but I was paying more attention to some other non-quarterback positions, like on a Baltimore tight end, Tyler Warren. I think this kid is gonna be a monster of a player. I think he's gonna be the next big tight end. He caught all 3 of his passes against Baltimore, 3 catches for 40 yards. So I was very happy to see that. And then I want to go back to the Browns and Panthers game.
While you're doing that, one player that really stood out to me this past weekend, well, these past 2 days, because we have 3 games today, but Frank Gore Jr. out in Buffalo. I mean, he's at the running back position. He had a hell of a game yesterday. He did. Great game yesterday. I think he proved himself that he can be, I mean, he wouldn't be the RB2. He'll probably be an RB3. There was a lot of talk about him ending up on the practice squad for Buffalo, but I think this guy is a 53-man roster type guy. You can have him doing kick returns, which he was doing. You can have him as a third down running back if you have any sets that run 3 backs. Like Frank Gore Jr. really just stepped up and balled yesterday, which is insane. It's crazy how the running back position has really immersed out of the ashes because the running back position was not important for a very long time.
Yeah, you're right.
But Frank Gore Jr. really had a hell of a game yesterday in their loss against the Giants. So,
yeah, he did. All right, now I want to go back to the Browns and Panthers. And Panthers rookie wide receiver, Tatario McMillan. I think he is going to be the top receiver of this rookie class. 2 catches for 43 yards off of 5 targets. So he didn't have a bad game. So, I mean, Bryce Young looked shaky at times, but he ended up actually having a pretty good game. And then did you see anything from the the Titans and Bucks game?
I heard about it on the radio. I was at work while some of the games were playing, so I was listening to games. So I heard about it. There were some games that I had to listen to.
Their first round pick, I believe, Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, man. He only had 2 targets. But, man, he made an amazing 21-yard leaping catch. That was really, really impressive. I wanted to bring that up as well. And I believe there was one more.
And that's the thing about players in preseason. A lot of people say that preseason isn't important. It doesn't matter. Nothing out of preseason, means anything. I think it's very well proven. We talked about this last year, that preseason matters. Preseason does matter because it depends who's going to be on your team. Who's going to be the backup to that starter that is supposed to be out there for every snap. That's why preseason matters. It depends on who's going to get a roster spot, who's going to be on this team to fill in for if a guy gets injured. So preseason matters because you get to see these players. You know, you hear all the time that people say, who's this guy or who's that guy? Well, if you would have paid attention to preseason, because that's how important preseason is, then you know who they are. You know, and that's why I always defend the fact that preseason matters. Preseason means something.
Yeah.
Because you can learn about the players that get drafted back in April and May. Whenever the draft is, either in April or May. That's why I say April or May. You know, that's why it matters. Because, and that's the other thing is you see people get excited like, oh, we drafted this guy out of this. And then, 3-4 months later when the season starts and they end up having to go on the field because the starter gets injured, who's this guy? Oh, you remember the guy you got excited for when they got drafted? Yeah, that's who that is. Like, come on now. Like, they did something preseason to obviously show that they did something there in a roster spot. So, yeah.
And the last player I want to showcase is the Patriots rookie running back, Trayvon Henderson. Now, when
had a monster game.
When New England drafted him, they talked about how fast this kid was. And they talked about how they liked his speed. And he backed up everything they say. He took the opening kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
On top of that, 3 catches for 12 yards. He caught all of his targets. And he only ran the ball one time, but it was for 18 yards. This kid looks to be one heck of a complimentary back to Stevenson. So that should be a great 1-2 punch for New England. I didn't expect that out of Henderson, but tell you what, that's how you make a name for yourself. The first time you ever touch the ball, you take it 100 yards for a touchdown. So.
This is one thing I will say is there was a lot of impressive players. There was a lot of impressive plays.
Yeah.
A lot of impressiveness this week. But the one thing we got to remember is it is week 1 of preseason. Okay.
Exactly.
You're going to have players who are going to show out, build statistics, show that they can do stuff. Why? Because they just went 3 months since mini camp started. They had voluntary and they had involuntary mini camps, right? They had times where players chose to show up and they had times where players needed to be there. Okay. This is week 1 of preseason. These guys, since mini camps, since being drafted, have been practicing and playing against the same people every day. So now, getting into week 1 of preseason, they're finally getting in to face other players from other teams. They're getting to hit other guys opposed to the guys that they're hitting every day. You go out there and you practice. John, for example, say we were on the same football team and we ended up practicing. Say for all extensive purposes, I was playing wide receiver and you were playing defensive back, okay? And I was the WR1, you were the defensive back that was the spotlight guy, and you defended me the whole time, okay? And we were in minicamp together. We were facing each other all the time. It got to the point where we were able to, joke around and have fun and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Now we get to preseason week 1, right? Now you're facing another wide receiver, not me. You're facing somebody else on the other side. You get to hit, and you get to hit people hard, and it's not your teammates, okay? That's why these statistics are big. That's why these plays are big. I think once we get into week 2, week 3 preseason, will it calm down a little bit? Yes. And then when we get into week 1 of the regular season, it'll pick up again because then it matters.
I don't know if it'll calm back down because these are guys trying to fight for roster spots or even practice squad spots. The guys that have a long shot of making the team. These are guys that got to show they can play and contribute to the team and to deserve a spot. So I don't even think it's going to calm down. So
I had a conversation last night with somebody and it was Cam. He's been here watching the show in the past. He brought the Skylar Thompson stuff to my attention, right? Because he's a Steelers fan. He brought it to my attention. And he did raise the question about the Aaron Rodgers thing that we talked about off air. But he also said, I said to him, it's very impressive what Skylar Thompson did, but he's got to continue impressing. You can't just take a week one of preseason impressiveness to sit there and say, oh, this kid can be the starter. No. Just because he had one really good game against a Jaguars defense, second, third stringers, mind you, that don't matter. That's just like I said to you about Shedeur Sanders. I said, yeah, he had a good game against the Patriots, but the Patriots defense, who are second and third, the Panthers, thank you.
Yeah.
The Panthers defense, who were second and third stringers, were still pressuring him at times. So
yeah, but he took off and ran though, man.
But do you really want him to run around like a chicken with his head cut off all the time? No.
But he has the ability to do it. If like this kid, the poise he showed against Carolina just blew my mind.
I get it.
He did not make any throws. He didn't look scared. If they broke the O-line, he ran. He made time for plays, and like I said, he impressed the heck out of me.
And I get that, and he impressed me too. He did. But the point being is number one, the offensive line needs to get better at blocking. That's the upfront deal.
It wasn't the starters.
You got to take the pressure. But if the starting offensive line can't take that pressure off of him, and you're going to have him running, you got to remember this too, is he will be facing, if he were to start, he will be facing much better defenses than the Panthers and the Panthers backups. So that's the consideration you really got to think of. Because if he goes out there and faces a defense, who's the number one defense right now in the league? Coming out of last year.
I believe it was Philly.
Philly, okay. Who was the number two defense? Number two defense, I believe, was it was either
it was
the number two defense was the Titans.
Detroit's defense was bad last year.
The Titans, okay? So let's look at it this way. If he went out there and faced the Eagles defense, the Titans defense, the Vikings defense, who the Vikings defense is always a top 10 defense. That defense is always good. Okay?
Not last year.
But anyways, if he goes out and faces these top 10 defenses, they're going to catch him. And then if he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, I mean, I get it. The impressiveness was there. But you need to figure out a way to protect him so the defenses don't always contain him, because defenses will end up containing him. The backup Panthers defense, they even gave him running around problems. Had him running around. You don't want that, because come running around, he'll get tired. And if he gets tired,
there's a difference between running around with like a chicken and your head cut off and running around to make plays. There's a big difference. Running around with your chicken, like a chicken with your head cut off, is basically playing scared football. There's a difference between buying time and making plays and just running because you see them coming. It's like,
there were plenty of times where he was pressured, though.
But he handled it so well, man.
He did. And I'm not taking that away from him. He did. But my point is there's a difference between making a play by choice and making a play because of pressure.
But that's what you want your quarterback to be able to do, though.
But
when
they
do pressure you to break out of the pocket and make the play.
But the problem is he was under a lot of pressure at times. You want to alleviate that pressure. And that's where the offensive line comes in. Yes, I know there was the backup offensive line. But if the starting offensive line doesn't do their job and he gets in a situation like he was in against the Panthers, I'd be scared. Would I throw this kid into the Wolves in week one? If I would I throw this kid to the Wolves in week one? No. Because he's supposed to be your future. Next to Dylan Gabriel, who come next year when Joe Flacco decides to possibly retire, because I believe Joe Flacco after this year is going to be done. I don't think Flacco comes back next year.
I believe Flacco doesn't even end the year as a starter.
And that's going to be the Browns' choice. I was thinking that same thing. I was thinking by week 10, week 11, it's going to be Sanders or Gabriel. And right now, Sanders has that front run. Why? Because Pickett's out and
they're
Gabriel's
high
out.
on Pickett, too.
Oh, Pickett, I think, I'm going to say this right now, I think Pickett's going to get cut. I do. I think Pickett
I don't
gets
think
cut.
so, because he'd be the backup. You need somebody who has NFL playing experience there.
Not necessarily. There have been many teams with rookie backups in history. There have been. So you don't necessarily need that veteran backup. The Steelers right now, they have rookie backups to Aaron Rodgers.
Well, they
That's
don't.
what they're
Mason
running.
Rudolph isn't a rookie.
That's right. I forgot he was there.
No,
That's
he's
how important.
not.
That's how important Mason Rudolph is to me. I forgot he was there. So, as of for preseason week 1, not a bad preseason kickoff, and we have 3 games today. Bring those games up real quick. I know we got the Chargers.
Well, we have 2 games today.
So at the we have a 1 o'clock kickoff, and I think 2 4 o'clock kickoffs. Hold on.
1 4 o'clock kickoff.
Okay, yeah, you're right. 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock is the Bears, Dolphins, and 4 o'clock is the Chargers Saints. You're right on that.
Yeah, they're both
Sorry.
on NFL Network.
I thought I seen 3. I know next week we get a Sunday night game. Next week for week 2, there is a Sunday night game.
Really?
I believe the Cowboys are on Sunday night next week.
No, it's the Bills and the Bears, and then Monday night
or Bills and Bears. Yeah,
is the Bengals and Commanders. So we got a Monday night football game too next week.
that doesn't surprise me because we get preseason games on Thursday night right now and Wednesday night sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah, next week it kicks off on Friday instead. There's no Thursday night next week.
Yeah. So, John, before we get into doing our spotlight of the NFC South, we are going to take 30 seconds as a break. Make sure you are heading over to all the Huddle Hub podcasts, social medias right now and hit that follow button over on the YouTube, hitting that subscribe button. So make sure you're heading over to all the Huddle Hub podcast social media pages over on X and over on TikTok at the Huddle Hub Pod. Make sure you're hitting that follow button. Over on the YouTube at the Huddle Hub Pod, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Over on the Twitch channel at the Huddle Hub Podcast, make sure you hit that follow button as well. On the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch channel, we have all the links to all of our social medias in there. So head over there and hit that follow button. Hit the links, and it will take you to every social media right away. So you don't have to go and do the search button thing. You could just hit the link in the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch channel and take you right to them. So, John, we're getting the spotlight of the NFC South. Final division in the NFC. That's it. This is it for the NFC. So we're doing the NFC South today. Next week, you are going to be off, so I will be on doing the news coming out of the week. And then probably talking about other things. And then on the 24th, we will be here to do all the AFC divisions. So it's going to be a big show. And then on the 31st is going to be our prediction show to where we make all of our predictions. We're also going to do the playoffs and then leading up to who we think is going to be raising the Lombardi at Super Bowl 60. So another big show on the 31st. So come join us for all those shows leading into the 2025 NFL season. We are also going to do some college football talking because college football starts in about a week or two. So we're going to be starting the college football talk in 2 weeks on the 24th as well. So big shows coming up here on the Huddle Podcast. Make sure you're hitting that follow button on all the social medias and come and join us here every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also check out the replays of the shows over on the YouTube. I do post them every Tuesday, full shows. So go check them out. John, we are doing the final spotlight of the NFC, which is the NFC South. You ready
Yeah.
for this one?
Oh,
It's going to be a
yeah.
fun one. Probably one of the worst divisions in football last year. We're going to kick it off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went 10-7. They lost in the wild card round of the playoffs. Their head coach is Todd Bowles. He's been the head coach since 2022, so he's going into his fourth season. His record is 27-24, and he is 1-3. 1-3 in the playoffs. So, John, your thoughts, your spotlight of 2025 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, I mean, I expect them to win South again. I don't know how much competition they're going to get out of Carolina and New Orleans. And Atlanta's a question mark right now because we don't really know how Michael Penix Jr. is going to do in his first year as a starter. And if at some point Kirk Cousins will even be seeing the field or possibly even traded. But I mean, last year the Bucks had the number 3 defense. I'm sorry, the number 3 offense, and their defense was kind of middle of the pack. So I think we'll see an improvement on the defensive side of the ball. They draft Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame in the second round and Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State in the third round. They're both cornerbacks. And then their fourth and fifth rounders were also defense. So they definitely tried to improve the defense. First round, they draft Emeka Ibuka, which out of Ohio State, which, like I said, had that amazing catch. I think they're going to groom him to eventually replace Mike Evans. But Evans isn't done yet. You still have the offense with Baker, with Evans, with Godwin. So, and Bucky Irving showed up last year. Nobody expected him to jump out of nowhere from his rookie year. I think the Bucks again, like I said, they're going to win the division. Maybe make it to the division round. I think their ceiling would be the conference championship, but I don't see them getting past the division round of the playoffs. What about you, Mike?
So I got to make a correction real quick. Todd Bowles, he's 53-65.
Okay.
So I looked at just his Tampa Bay record when I did my research. He's 53-65 all time. So in 2025 for the Buccaneers, I just got to say this right now. They got to start fast, score fast. Okay, we've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in many game situations last year to where they should have dominated games. They should have won by big. Start fast, score fast. That's what I want to see from Tampa Bay this year. That's really all I got on Tampa Bay. This was an easy division to do on because why was the worst division in football.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So I just got to say Tampa Bay, start fast, score fast. You got the players to do it. Bucky Irvin, who came out of nowhere last year and became one of the top running backs in the league. You got Mike Evans. You got the wide receiving core. You got the tight ends. Like this offense can be as explosive as the Bengals offense. And we know how explosive the Bengals offense could be, putting up 40-some points a game. So I think this offense could do the same thing, but it's going to be all about Baker Mayfield's management as a leader. They got to score fast, and they got to start fast and score fast. That's the way I look at it. Who's your focus players?
Focus players on the Buck. I'm going to go with Bucky Irving on offense because he needs to build off of that campaign that he had last year. Like I said, he came out of nowhere and he really just ended up stealing that job from Rachaad White, who was a pretty long time starter there.
Yeah.
So if Irvin can continue if Irvin can continue to have success, then that'll take pressure off of Baker. It'll help the passing game. So I think flat out, Bucky Irving right there on offense. And on defense, I'm going to focus rookie Jacob Parrish. They drafted him for a reason to help that defense out. And I want to see just what he can do as a starter, as a rookie.
I like your Bucky Irving picking because again, he could be a top running back in this league.
Yeah,
he
he
proved
could.
that last year, and I can agree with you. He's got to build off that campaign from last year. He did come in and he swooped out the starting position from Rashawn White. He did.
Yeah.
Rashawn White also didn't help himself because he was on IL a lot.
That's true.
He
Yeah.
dealt with the IL. He was on IL for a lot of things last year. So, I mean, for him to come in and swoop in and say, hey, I'm going to show everybody what I can do. He did it. Now he could come out and build off that campaign. I could agree with that. My offensive player is Baker Mayfield. Like I said, he's got to come out and control that offense. He does a really good job at doing it. Excuse me. But again, it's going to be all about starting fast and scoring fast. And he's got the weapons to do so. And Baker Mayfield himself is a weapon. So the Baker Mayfield, I want to see him get into the MVP talks. I do. I think it's time. I think it's time to get into that talks. But it's going to be all about his leadership and what he does with controlling and game management. My defensive player is Yaya Diaby, the linebacker. I think this guy can become I mean, they've had a lot of linebackers come through Tampa Bay and be the guy who wore the helmet with the red sticker on it. You know what the red sticker is, right, John?
Yeah.
That is the guy who pretty much calls the plays on defense. He's in the huddle leading the guys. I think Yaya Diaby can be that linebacker that does that this year, opposed to them bringing in, veterans that, can come in and control a defense. I think he could be that. So I want to see Yaya Diaby really step up. And statistic-wise, he's a linebacker. He's going to have a couple tackles. He's going to maybe have an interception if the timing's right. But I think his sack numbers can go up if Tampa Bay runs the right defensive schemes. The Falcons, they went 8-9. The head coach is Raheem Morris. He's in his second year. He's been the head coach since 2024. His record is 8-9. So, John, what's your spotlight on the Falcons for 2025?
Well, hopefully consistency. For one, they looked like they were going to be a contender for that defense. For that division. And they just flamed out at the end of the year. They were living on a prayer, basically. They needed to beat Carolina, which they couldn't do, and have Tampa Bay lose. But it didn't matter because they couldn't beat the Panthers. So I think offensively, this team is stacked. You got Bijan Robinson. You got Drake London. And you have Darnell Mooney, who broke out last year at the wide receiver part. You got Kyle Pitts, and I'm saying that loosely because he has yet to show the potential he showed at college. But offensively, they are stacked. They were the number 6 offense last year. The problem with the Falcons is their defense. They were in the bottom 20s for defense last year. So what they do in the draft, every single player except their 7th round pick went defense. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, he's a linebacker, along with James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, an edge rusher, defense. Then you have rounds 3 and 4, Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman Jr., both safeties. They realized what the problem was, and they're trying to fix it. So give them kudos to that. Do I think they have a shot at this division? Yeah, maybe an outside shot. It all depends really on that defense and Michael Penix Jr. because he didn't look bad his rookie year. He didn't look great his rookie year. And coming out of college last year, I thought he was going to be the top quarterback in that class. I loved him at Washington. But that's really, I think, what it's going to fall on to determine how far this team goes. Michael Penix Jr. has to make smart throws. He has to get the ball off to his playmakers. And that defense has to hold strong. It's a very young defense. There's guys on the line that are really first-time starters now. And it's go time. If that defense can put up numbers, I have no worries with that offense. It's all about what their defense is going to do.
So Raheem Morris is full on record. This is the second time that I did this. His record is actually 29-47. He was the interim head coach for the Falcons back in 2020, and he was the head coach of the Buccaneers back in 2009 to 2011. So his record is 29-47. He's 0-0 in the playoffs. Never made the playoffs. Okay. So, but that's Raheem Morris's record. My focus for 2025 is to have extra focus on the offense because this is a very defensively heavy coaching staff. You look at the coaching staff, and a lot of coaches have more defensive experience than the offense. So I don't think the defense is going to have a lot of problems. Yeah, they had problems last year, but this is a different coaching staff this year. They brought guys in to fix the problems on defense. So now that it's a defensively heavy coaching staff, they got to focus on that offense, especially with Michael Penix being the QB1, Kirk Cousins being the QB2. I don't think that there's going to be a point in the year where Kirk Cousins becomes the QB1 again. I think Michael Penix is their future. I think Michael Penix is their guy. Kirk Cousins is there to back him up and help him along that way. That's what I think it is. Kirk Cousins, I don't think will be a starter in this league until he ends up somewhere else, if he ends up somewhere else. Again, everybody's concerned about that contract. That contract doesn't matter. It's going to be whether a team wants to take it on or not. And I think in 2026, we'll see that. I think 2026, there's going to be a team out there that needs a quarterback, and when the money becomes available, then they'll take on the Kirk Cousins deal. But right now, the money's not there. Why? Because everybody used up all their funds that they got from 2025. So, the focus on that offense. That's that. John, your focus players, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, I could go first.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. On offense, my focus player is Michael Penix Jr. This team goes through him. He's the quarterback. He's the second one to touch the ball, not counting the center. You know, obviously the center is the first one to touch it. The offense goes through him. He has the weapons, like I said. There's really no reason for this kid to fail. And I do think there is a chance we can see, piggybacking off what you said, there's a chance that we can see Kirk Cousins on the field this year. I think if the Bengals are within the division and, you know, striking distance of taking the division, and Penix plays kind of, you know, you might have a good game here, a bad game there, inconsistent, I could see them putting Kirk Cousins in to try to ice the deal for making the playoffs if Penix Jr. struggles. It's good to have him, Kirk Cousins, up your sleeve as a backup, just in case. So Penix Jr. is my offensive focus. My defensive focus is right end David Onyemata. He only had 3 sacks last year in 17 games. That needs to improve from a right end. All right, Leonard Floyd had 8.5 sacks. He can't do it by himself. That D-line has to get pressure. They have to get to the quarterback. And I want to see both Zach Harris and David Onyemata just do that. They need to make the other team's quarterback feel uncomfortable. So I want to see Onyemata improve that 3.5 sacks to maybe 6, 7. Let's double those totals. So those are my focus players.
So I'm going to piggyback off of what you said about Michael Penix and being your offensive focus player because Kirk Cousins is mine. Kirk Cousins is mine.
Okay.
I know there's a chance that Kirk Cousins does not see the field again. Is there a chance that he could be one, like you said, come in and maybe seal the deal on a playoff spot? Maybe. I like Michael Penix Jr. I do. But part of me says that I think this is still, even though Kirk Cousins had a little bit of a slump last year, I still think this could be Kirk Cousins' team. It's just all about giving it that second opportunity. And I think that's what the Falcons should have done, was give Kirk Cousins a second chance at starting. Again, I like Michael Penix. You know me, I was very favored him in the draft. The Falcons put themselves in a position to where they have 2 quarterbacks that can do the job. you got to remember Kirk Cousins was coming off of that massive injury. And just like any other human being, you're going to be somewhat scared to use that body part that you had to get major surgery on. It's rough. It's a rough mental aspect. So I think Kirk Cousins, he should have gotten a second chance this year of being the starter, but who am I to make that call? But Kirk Cousins, I think we could end up seeing it. If Michael Penix puts the Falcons in a position that they're, let's say, 1-4 or 2-5, like 3 games under 500, that's when I could see them saying, you know what, we got to put Kirk in. Like, we can't do this again to where we fall 1-2 games short of the playoffs. Like, let's see what Kirk can do. Let's put him in. I think we see Kirk Cousins earlier than late into the season if Michael Penix puts the Falcons in that position. My defensive player is Jalen Walker, the linebacker. John, when I do my research for this stuff, I don't only just look at rosters and I don't give my thoughts on what these teams can do in 2025 or beyond. I also go and watch film. That's what YouTube is great for. You can go watch film. Yes, you don't have to be a part of it. You don't have to be a part of a team to watch film. You could just go on YouTube.
Highlight videos of prospects.
This is a funnel defense. And you know what a funnel defense is, John? They pressure from the outside, which leaves the middle wide open. And Jalen Walker is my defensive player. Why? Because he plays the middle of the linebacking core. And I think he could put the pressure up the middle with 2 other linebackers and turn that funnel defense into a big tornado. I think the Falcons are going to have a good defense this year. I do. I have a good feeling about the Falcons defense this year. And that's if they can put pressure up the middle and stop only putting pressure on the outside. You're trying to contain the quarterback. That's great. You got to watch that middle of the field. Bring pressure. Jalen Walker is my defensive player. The Panthers. Carolina Panthers went 5-12 last year. Their head coach is Dave Canales. He's in his second year. Went 5-12, and he does not have a career record. He is only 5-12.
That's his career record.
After I noticed the Raheem Morris thing, I was like, I got to look ahead real quick. That's what I was doing here. I was looking ahead to make sure nobody else on this thing today had career records, and I'm going to have to look forward for the AFC, which I know I already had a good start on. But they went 5-12 last year. Dave Canales is 5-12 in his record because it is his second year as the head coach in Carolina. So, John, what are you looking forward to for the Panthers in 2025?
Oh, my goodness. What am I looking forward to for the Panthers? Improvement. That's what I'm looking forward to in the Panthers. They were 29th in offense last year and 32nd dead last in defense last year. How does that improvement come by? Well, they draft Terrio McMillan, who, like I said, coming out of Arizona, I thought he was the best receiver in the draft class. And then they scoop up Nick Squirton out of Texas A&M. He's an edge rusher who arguably could have been a first-round pick. They get him in the second round as a steal. So, I mean, they're already trying to improve. Their draft was a mix of offensive, defensive players, which needed to be because of just how bad they were. Let's not sugarcoat it at all. They were bad last year. However, Bryce Young showed significant improvement. They bench him. He comes back in, and he looks like a completely different quarterback. Chuba Hubbard solidified his spot as starting running back, and to the point where Miles Sanders he's a Cowboy now. He's not even a Panther. You draft McMillan. I mean, they have a good young offense. You got core players there. Young, Hubbard, McMillan. Let's not forget about Xavier Legette. You have a good core offense. Now they need to get experience together. They need to gel together. The O-line has to protect Bryce Young. He can't be scared behind the pocket like he was before he got benched. Defense, we need everything on defense. Like, the defense can't be last. Put it that way. And when you're last, the only way you can go is up. You can't go down. So I'm expecting that defense to be improved, even if it's to the 30th spot or the 29th spot. It's still an improvement. It means 2 or 3 teams were worse than you. You weren't last. So the Panthers aren't going to be contending for the playoffs unless, who knows, the Commanders were the team that came out of nowhere last year. The year before that was the Texans. It seems like that's starting to become a trend where a team that's supposed to be bad isn't. I don't think it will be the Panthers, but you never know the way this the way the league's going. What do you think, Mike?
Well, John, I announced 2 weeks ago that the Jets are my AFC, sleeper team. The Panthers are my NFC sleeper team this year.
You've been high on them. Them and the Browns. You like to pick them.
I do. I do. And the Panthers are going to be my sleeper team for the NFC for like the 10th year in a row. They are. I got very high hopes for the Panthers ever since they drafted Bryce Young 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I've been high on them. But I'm going to piggyback off what you said. I think they got to double down on player progression. That's what they got to do. You're not going to go anywhere if you don't progress what you're doing. Follow up with they always say that teams do go back into the film room and they make up for their mistakes. But the problem is some of these teams, they go into the film room and they still don't make up for the mistakes that they made the week before. The Panthers are going to have to double down on that. They are. They're going to have to double down on making sure they make up for their mistakes and player progression. Watch extra film. Get out there and practice, extra time. I know there's time limits on everything, but this team needs to use up every second of every day, making sure that their player progression moves forward. We've seen it with Bryce Young last year. Got benched, came back, had a great second half of the year. He did, statistically. Had a really good second half of the year. That's player progression. They shouldn't have to scare the shit out of players by saying, hey, you're benched in order to progress. They shouldn't have to do that. These players should be progressing naturally. And you're right. The Panthers have a really good core around them to the fact where they can progress and have a good year. You look at this Panthers, and we're going to do our prediction show on the 31st. I'm going to say this right now. You look at that Panthers schedule, and it is favored for them to become a wild card team. It is. Now they got to take advantage of it. Progress. Player spotlight, John, who do you got?
All right. Player spotlight time. Let's see here. On offense, I'm going to spotlight Terrio McMillan, their number 1 pick out of Arizona, rookie wide receiver. He's number 1 on their depth chart. We already know Adam Thielen's consistent. He's reliable for Bryce Young, but that's what McMillan needs to be for him. McMillan needs to be Bryce Young's Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying he's going to play to that caliber, but what I am saying
he's got to be the crutch.
He needs to be the go-to guy. Xavier Legette, he's their number 3. He really didn't show up last year, and that really surprised me because he's fast. But McMillan, he needs to be the go-to guy. He needs to take control of the field and show Bryce Young, hey, you need a first down? All right, I got you. You need a 3rd and 15? I got you. So I think McMullen's got to be the spotlight there. On defense, I'm going to spotlight right cornerback. I almost said cornerback like a quarterback, but right cornerback, Jace Horn. He needs to stay healthy. Last year, he only missed 2 games, which was great. He's never played more than 15 games before. That was his top. He needs to stay on the field. He has injury concerns, and he needs to show up when he's on the field. He only had 1 interception last year. Mm-hmm. He has to. He's their top corner for a reason, and he needs to start playing like it. So I got Terrio McMillan and Jace Horn as my spotlight players.
Bryce Young is mine. I want to see him continue the progression from the back half of last year. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be in the MVP talks by all means. That's not going to happen. It's not. I mean, could it happen? It could. You can't say it's not. It couldn't happen. But do I see it happening? No. I want to see him have a continue building off that back half of last year. And from the sounds of it, what I'm hearing from as far as, training camp interviews and stuff coming out of training camp is he is looking solid. And it's all about that offensive line. Apparently the offensive line is looking solid too. So I want to see progression from Bryce Young. He's my spotlight focus player for this year. As far as my defense, J.C. Horn, the cornerback. Now, it's kind of odd to pick a cornerback position because the cornerback is just the guy that goes out and blocks the wide receivers.
Yeah, I picked him. So
J.C. Horn is I mean, J.C. Horn is a key aspect to this defense. Why? Because, like I said, the Panthers, just like the Falcons, they have that funnel defense. The Panthers are somewhat of like outside, pressure team too. Get your cornerbacks involved. That's one thing they really don't do is getting the cornerbacks involved on blitzes or anything like that. J.C. Horn has the speed and the size to be a guy who can come in and sack a quarterback with no problem. Stop a running back from gaining more than 3-4 yards. J.C. Horn is a big aspect to this defense. So J.C. Horn is my defensive player. The Saints, they're 5-12. They went 5-12 last year as well. The head coach is Kellen Moore. This is his first year coming off his offensive coordinating position in Philadelphia, Super Bowl year. So this is his first year as the head coach. So, John, your spotlight in New Orleans. What are you looking for in New Orleans?
Again, this is another team that I'm looking for improvement. They were in the bottom 20s in offense, and I get it. Some of that was because of the Derek Carr situation. Well, he's not on the team anymore. So now you have no excuse to say, well, our offense was bad because our quarterback was hurt.
Yeah.
Defense, they were 30th in the league in defense, 2 spots above the Panthers. So any type of improvement, especially on the defensive side of the ball, will help New Orleans completely. They're another team that in the draft, they were just all over the place, both a good mix of offensive and defensive players. Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, offensive tackle. Tyler Sau out of Louisville, quarterback. So, and then the 3rd round was completely defense. 4th round, completely defense. So, I mean, they were all over the place because they needed to be. So, I mean, on paper, their offense, with the exception of the quarterback, I'm not a Spencer Rattler fan. I didn't think he was that good in college, to be honest with you. I think Tyler Sau, if he doesn't win this division, if he doesn't win the competition at the quarterback, I think he'll be in there at some point. Spencer Rattler looked scared last year when he was on the field, and he just did not look like he was ready. But he does have the weapons. They got Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed was great until he got hurt. They bring back Brandon Cooks. I mean, you have the weapon there. The O-line needs to hold up for him. They're 2 young quarterbacks, so that O-line is going to be very important. That's why they draft Kelvin Banks Jr. and throw him at the left tackle spot. And on defense, everybody just has to get better. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Everybody on defense just has to get better. 30th in defense. Do I see them competing? Do I see them as a team that's going to come out of nowhere? Absolutely not. They have 2 unproven quarterbacks. And I could see them maybe winning 5 games if they're lucky, improving a little bit. But I feel like they're going to be last in that division again unless the Panthers take a step backwards. But any type of improvement would be good for the Saints at this point.
I mean, if they won 5 games, the only improvement would be as far as their player progression because they won 5 games.
How many
last year.
I completely missed that when you announced their record.
There'd be no improvement if they only won 5 games. But I'm with you. I mean, my key focus for this team is leadership and player progression will be the big focus this season. Don't expect a good season from the Saints. That's bottom line. I looked at their schedule. I've watched film. I did my research on some of these players. And I'm just going to get right into the focus players. My offense is Alvin Kamara. You look at his stats last year: 228 carries, 950 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's not a bad year, but it's also not the year that you would expect from Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was a big breakout running back when he was younger, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Don't forget, Kamara was suspended last year, so he
was.
didn't play a full season. He would have had over 1,000 yards if he wasn't suspended.
He would have, but you also got to add in. I didn't see the stat for his catching because I know he goes out of the backfield and he also catches the ball. I didn't have that statistic ready, but anyways, it's player progression and leadership is going to be their key focus this year. That's going to be it. I don't expect a good season and I don't expect them to win more than 5 games either. I don't. They started off hot last year in the first 2 weeks, and then once they played Philly, that was it. They got shut down. They went out and won 3 more games, and that was it. They had a really rough go. And then as far as the defense, and I'll do my focus defensive player right away too, Cameron Jordan, 34 combined tackles, 16 assisted, 4 sacks, and 1 interception. It's very rare for a defensive end to get an interception. It is. It's not a bad year as far as tackling, but half of your tackles come from assisted tackles. That means that a lot of teams either ran the ball up the middle of the field on you and you helped a guy get a tackle, or you helped a linebacker or a defensive back get a tackle. So Cam Jordan, he's been in the league for a very long time. He's an older guy, but I still expect him to have a progressed year from last year, because last year was just a rough year for the guy. I know he dealt with injuries too. So your focus players for the Saints.
All right, for the Saints, my focus, I'm going to go players with an S, because I'm going to focus on wide receiver Chris Olave and wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. Both of them got hurt last year, and that was a huge blow for New Orleans. Shaheed was having possibly a breakout year last year before he got hurt, and Olave's always been consistent. Those two need to stay healthy to help their young quarterback, whether it's Rattler or Shug. Those two, he needs weapons to throw the ball to. They brought Brandon Cooks back, but he can't do it himself. And to be honest with you, if you look at their depth chart, Bubba Means, Cedric Wilson, and Mason Tipton are the ones behind them. Not one of those names scares you. Not one. So Olave and Shaheed need to stay healthy for this team to have any kind of success. On defense, I'm going to go right end, Byron Brees. Last year, he had 7.5 sacks. It was his second year in the league, and he stepped forward. His rookie year, he had 4.5 sacks. His sophomore year, 7.5 sacks. His tackles went up. His stats are improving. He's taking that step forward. If you can get Cameron Jordan on one side, and if Brian Breesy on the other side, if he keeps progressing, that could be a formidable 1-2 punch from your edge rushers. So I got the receivers and Brian Breesy as my spotlight players.
All right. Well, that's it for the NFC South in the spotlight, and that's it for the NFC. Got through the NFC. That's it. So, wrong thing. Oh my gosh, hitting the wrong thing here. There we go. But that's it for the NFC, man. In 2 weeks, we will be spotlighting every AFC division. So again, big show. And with that being a big show, it looks like we might end up going 2 hours on that show. I know our first planned 2-hour show is going to be August 24th is our first planned 2-hour show. And so in 2 weeks, 2 weeks we'll be doing a full show.
Football too.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks on the 24th will be next week is going to be our last short show, our last basically off-season show as we consider it, because during the off-season we don't go any longer than an hour and a half. We're an hour and 20 minutes.
Not a lot of news to talk about in the off-season.
So, this is it. John, you're off next week. So I'll be on here doing the news and talking about anything else coming out of preseason week 2 and other stuff. I'll cover everything next week while you're taking some time off. We'll be back on the 24th though for the college football
Going
talk
to Maryland
in
to
the NFC.
visit some family next weekend. So yeah.
So but I'll be here. I'll talk some preseason week 2 and do the news, and then on the 24th, our first 2-hour show, which should be a good one. So,
Definitely.
But with that being said, John, what do you want to let the people know?
All right, you can find me on Twitch at the Candyman JH and YouTube at Candyman JH. Content is starting to drop on YouTube slowly, but Twitch streaming a couple times a week. I'm more active on Twitch right now than YouTube, so head on over, follow on Twitch, like, share, and subscribe my stuff on YouTube. So what about you, Mike? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat at MetalMike714. Yeah, I don't do too much on social media. That's where you can find me. That's where you can contact me. You know, I post random shit. Like I said to Cam the other day on our shows, that most of my content creating is on the live shows here. That's it. And when we do recorded content. Other than that, I just do fun stuff on social media, I guess. But anyways, you can find me on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat at MetalMike714. You can also catch me on the Table Spot every Monday night with Cam over on Rivet City Radio's Twitch and Off the Top Media's YouTube channel on the Table Spot, and every Wednesday on the Boom with Cam and Phil as we talk about AEW Dynamite right after the show on Rivet City Radio's Twitch and Off the Top Media's YouTube channel. But you can catch us here every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Huddle Hub Podcast. Please make sure to head over to all the Huddle Hub Podcast social medias on X, TikTok, YouTube, at the Huddle Hub Pod, and on Twitch at the Huddle Hub Podcast. On the Twitch channel, all the links to all the social medias are on the bottom in the profile. So if you click on the links that are in there, it will take you right to the social medias. It's pretty easy to do. Instead of going in and using the search bar, just go in and click the link in the Twitch channel, and it'll take you right over to our social medias. And that's that. So, John, have fun next week. I'm going to training camp today. I'm going to Eagles training camp today.
Awesome. Have fun.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. Going to be leaving in about 3 hours. So I got to get ready for that. Going to be heading to Eagles training camp today. Starts at 6:00. So should be fun. Should be fun to see how they do training camp this time around, because I remember it being at Lehigh. It was a little different when they let the fans come in. So it's going to be a little different seeing it inside the link. But yeah, going to Eagles training camp today. So I'm pretty excited, pretty stoked for that. I am.
Good.
With that being said, we'll be back next Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless something big happens this week to where a sudden pop-up live has to happen. I've done a couple sudden pop-up lives when news breaks. But other than that, I'll see you guys next Sunday. John, you'll be back on the 24th. As I always say, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you can. We'll see y'all next week. Deuces.
See you.